Jerusalema, ikayalami, kilondolose, uhamenami, zugangishilama, Jerusalema, ikayalami, kilondolose, uhamenami.
Welcome to Journey for Service, Episode 9. William Laddick here with Randall Kaiser, talking about the mayoralty race in Calgary. Welcome back, Randall. You look to be in a very scenic spot.
I'm sitting on the grass up by my house up here on Scotchman's Hill, they call it, right above the Stampede grounds. Here, I'll do a little scan first, and then I'll put the phone back down in the grass. Stampede grounds starting to get set up. They've got a few things in place already, and we're going to be ready to roll before long for the Stampede. First Thursday of July, I believe, is when it starts.
Yeah,
let me get that phone rigged up again here in the grass.
Yep,
there we go.
Looks good. That sun beaming behind you, that looks great.
Perfect.
It's your character point there. We love seeing that sunlight in there, and we know Calgary's well known for sunlight.
You betcha.
So how's it going, my friend? How's the mayoralty trail this week?
It's good. You know, it's been I got all the autographs I need, so I have been a little less active as far as, you know, walking into stores or anything like that, and I don't need any more autographs to get that part started. So, you know, I still converse with everybody I walk past, you know, and I wear the get up, so anybody that makes mention of, hey, that's a nice looking hat and tie or something like that, and I just break right into it and start talking about, well, the mayor of Calgary's got to have a get up here, and oh, you're the mayor, and I said, you betcha. Just keep going with that, you know. But getting honked at and people waving and asking me, are you still in the race and stuff, and I'm like, you know, haven't really had any publicity out there yet, so I'm a little surprised that I'm getting that, but there's people starting to pay attention. And you know, the signs are going up for some of the candidates that have some, you know, they're backing in place, I guess, because they're buying signs. But they're going up now. But I'm going around and I'm seeing thousands of people some days, because I walk right down Princess Island Park through the traffic, through the 8th Avenue Mall, and you know, all these trails that I walk on every day, and people are seeing it. And you know, it's like a sign, like, because there's not, who the hell walks around town with a freaking white cowboy hat and a tie? Nobody. So they're gonna remember that. That's my sign.
Well, that's awesome. I'm surprised actually that you know, you've got that many, and you're saying it's quite noticeable, right? It's different than it was before you were talking about being mayor.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I have made a couple of public presentations, but I think our videos are having a little bit of an impact, and then just the conversation, you know, like, it's an old-fashioned campaign is the way I'm doing it, you know, like just talking to people, and then they're obviously spreading the word, you know, like and it's only been 4 or 5 weeks since we started this YouTube channel and I started talking about it. But you know, as the media picks up on me later, and I know I've made the CTV news here in Calgary just walking around a couple times. One of my friends said, I've seen you on the news twice now, and I'm like, what the hell, you know? It's just because of the cowboy hat that, you know, cameras come out and the freaking video cameras come out. If I find a CTV or, you know, CBC or Global News thing or whatever, I walk past. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm going to try and get my head in there. I'll do a photo bombing if I can, you know.
That's what they call free publicity.
That's right. I'm trying to get some of the grass petted down here in front of the camera.
No problem. Your face is a little dark because of the sunlight, just so you know, but and it is sunset time, pretty close anyways.
getting close. Yeah.
It'll probably get a little darker on us, so may have to adjust a little bit more as we go. But
Yeah.
for now, we'll just keep on motoring along. It's been an exciting week, an interesting week. I know that we've been talking a lot about money and the banking system through the past episodes, but I'm hearing things globally that is starting to sound kind of in alignment with what you've been kind of hinting at. Any news on that front on your side?
Oh, you betcha, brother. I mean, you know, it's coming and already happening. I'm gonna pick it up here and hold it because it is a little dark. So there you can see the Stampede grounds behind me, I think.
Beautiful.
But yeah, on the money front, I mean, everybody I visit with, and I've got hundreds of brokers on my phone. Okay, brokers being people like myself who know how bank instrument credit enhancement works. Okay, so there's no such thing as assets behind anything anymore. You know, like it's all paper instruments, including gold backed. Okay, so it's gold backed. That's the key word. You have to bring a safekeeping receipt. They call it an SKR with an assay or a measurement of your gold if you want to start an account. But that's only a backing. You know, it's a gold backed certificate, GCB. And so everything is paper and then digits, right? And then we bring out the currency, which is just fiat for each nation. That's where the word fiat currency comes in. It's not about the whole banking system. It's just the currency itself. It's fiat, right?
Yep.
But that's public money that's used in each nation to trade. And it's all, promissory notes is all it is. It's not really credit even, but people can call it what they want. It's fiat currency. But like I've always said, credit, cash, and currency are all manifested, okay? And keywords here, like you mentioned globally, you know what I think about globally. But it's not to do with me judging anything. It's just that the people that chose this globalist agenda also speak in terms of the globe, where the world being a construct, a human construct, is the way I think of when I think of what we're dealing with. And that was the New World Order. Now we're moving into a new world, okay? I don't like to think of the order thing because we're not going to give orders. We could call it a New World Guidance or something like that, because we're going to move into a new era of money. But going back beyond those words, and I'm sorry, I just pick up on little things like that, but the idea of currency, cash, and credit all being backed by paper and manifested. Okay, manifest being a piece of paper with autographs on it. Once again, right? That's what a manifest is. We get mixed up when we think in terms of creation. Creation or creativity, in my mind, is like alchemy. It brings the element of love, where manifestation is something that we're doing for man, for ourselves, for manifesting a brand new bike when I'm a kid. The story of the Secret movie or the Secret book or whatever, they talk about manifestation a lot. And a lot of that is based on your own reality and your own life, what you want to own, right? And ownership to me is not where I'm going. And I'm not trying to put anybody down for thinking that way. Everybody has to come to their own reality or realization of what's going on here. But all of those things are manifested and then they're manipulated, okay, man, once again, by man. And the key to all of that is manifesting the value. Okay, so we manifest the value, and then a few players in the game. It's not supply and demand. That's such a bullshit story that people want to feed you, as far as, oh, the oil price went up because this happened. Oh, we got bullshit. It's manipulated. Okay, it's manipulated. All commodity pricing values are manipulated. That's just the way it works. Okay. So, you know, that process is what's starting to be overcome. And when I speak to all of the people that I deal with, and I'm going to share a few more stories about that later, because people do want to know, and I know that. So I'm going to share a few stories about that. And these are real stories, experiential stories, phone calls and eye-to-eye meetings on this phone right here in front of me. And, but when I speak to all of them, I say, before I'm done, before I leave this planet, this plane of existence, whatever you want to call it, William, I'm not going to get into a discussion about that, but where we live, this realm, before I leave, we're going to have comfort income in every human being's pocket, God willing. And that's another one I want to touch on a little bit, is because people will say to me, oh, to bring that, you know, religious stuff in. God is not religious. God is spiritual, and God is within every one of us. And it's not some anthropomorphic deity. Like, that's when you talk about religion, and you have to put some pope or some middleman in between you and God. Bullshit. You don't even need a church. If you want to go to church, that's great for fellowship. But all you need is direct neural activation, DNA, divine neural activation, connection to God. And that God is within as well as within everything outside. So, ooh, there's a little preaching for you.
And you said, I think you said to me before we started that you actually were getting some, not flack, but you were getting some people approaching you on that subject this week.
And they're always going to be, you know, like as soon as you mention the word God, then people attach it to religion. There's no religion in me other than to look after my own temple, that thing in between my two temples, my mind. You know, we're here to look after ourselves religiously. That's where you need religion, is look after yourself.
Right. So there's a certain discipline involved in there, but it's a self-discipline as opposed to a discipline on some kind of outside set of rules kind of thing. It sounds to me like what you're saying.
You betcha, brother. No dogma involved unless you make up your own. Like I'm going to fast every month, or I'm going to eat certain foods. You get to choose, you know, you don't have to fall into somebody else's category. You make your own religion when it comes to your health, and then watch all of this dependency on that ridiculous pharmaceutical industry disappear. When people start just being responsible for their own body and religiously being responsible for their own body, making choices that are good for your own health.
I'm thinking too about so many different ways that could go today.
Sure.
I maybe we'll go down this path first, because there has been some news globally, not on the mainstream media, but sort of in the alternate news media, perhaps I can call it. I don't know what else to call it, but some of the things that you've been talking about, they've been saying are getting really close to fruition. And part of that process too, for anyone that's involved in that process, which apparently is going to see a shift in our whole financial structure, again, something you've been talking about over the last few weeks, that we may have to, for some of us anyways, may have to be signing certain contracts or agreements or whatever. And as a result means that we will not be able to, talk openly about certain things. Do you have any thoughts or comments on that? Or do you have anything like that you are facing yourself with regards to the funds that you are waiting for to come in for your campaign?
That's a good one, because honestly, it's going to be the opposite for me. The things that I'm holding back now, as far as people's names and what we're dealing with and stuff, I'm going to be able to speak more. So it's going to be the other way around. And I understand that there are people that are involved with things like, I'm going to just name some of it for people that are interested, Zims or dongs or dinars, and even cryptocurrencies. There's some secrets behind some of what's going on there. And it's, all of that is to do with investment and speculation. And that's, as soon as you get into that terms like in investment and speculation, then I'm not saying that anybody is not thinking in terms of goodness. Okay, I'm not trying to run that down, but I don't think in terms of speculation and investment. So therefore, I'm free to talk at will about whatever I choose. At this point in time, the people that I'm dealing with their names are irrelevant anyway. You know, I can tell some more stuff about that, and I'm going to tonight. But you know, as far as the people's names, even after, it's irrelevant anyway. It doesn't matter, you know. So there's no NDA involved. It's just like, what the hell do you have to know that for? You know, it's none of your business kind of thing. You know, like that's the way I see it. But as far as respect for people that are on the investment side and have potential for some monetary gains and have to sign NDAs, that's wonderful. And I respect that, because I know most of those people, are the ones that I know, are all thinking in terms of starting new conscious projects with their earnings, and not just going back into the same old, you know, investment or hoarding and speculation. You know, they're talking project funding, you know.
Yeah, well, I was going to jump in on that one, because you mentioned this last week. Some of these folks are looking at humanitarian type projects and things of that nature. Have you encountered any of those folks or any of those humanitarian projects, or do you have any projects yourself that you're looking at in addition to what you've been sharing with us already?
Yes, that is our main purpose on the private side. Okay, public side, I'm going to be the mayor. That's my public contribution to what's happening here. On the private side, I will be in charge of distribution of large amounts of capital, or large amounts of funding for projects, and they're all going to have a humanitarian bent. Okay, and humanitarian being beyond the suppression. That's the word I like to use, because the suppression goes back to the globalist agenda. That's where the money even for humanitarian projects coming out of these master trading platforms that I'm talking about was going for many years. And then the rest of it was just governments around the world trying to, you know, influence and exploit and, you know, manipulate the flow of funds. And that's going to come to an end really quick, because they've just overstepped their boundary. They stepped into it and decided, well, we're just going to be the only ones. No, you're not. In fact, you're going to actually topple down to the far end of the scale, and all you're going to have left is administration processes. You know, infrastructure can be built by private funding as well. We don't need government to be involved in all this stuff anymore. You can just step aside and shrink down to 10% of what you currently have, and then watch the economies of the world pick up and start to boom in the private sector, private projects, beyond some suppressed, limited, all corporate words, right? I came up with one today. I said the unlimited, the UN, limited things, the United Nations, limited stuff, right? Because it's a corporation. And the United Nations was limiting the flow of capital into nations with the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and then attaching things to that, like usury and interest and payback and resources. I mean, it was just a really ridiculous shit show that they had going on. You know, okay, we'll come into your country and we'll lend you, you know, billions of dollars. Don't worry about paying it back in any time. Well, they're just creating it based on on agreements and autographs, like I said. But then they're sitting there saying, well, you don't worry about paying it back. But, you know, you gotta fall in line here and start producing some, you know, food or something for our globalist agenda, right? My God. You know, I had sat down to a hot dog roast last night with a young lady who's up here in Canada from Chile. And the stories that she told me, like, all replicated what I learned over in other countries, like, you know, Southeast Asia, where I was. But it just, you know, it just solidified my belief and my understanding that we are shifting this whole world, and we needed to shift it because of what's going on down there and in many countries.
You know, from my impression, this shift that you've been talking about, and, you know, let's face it, we've been a little bit coy about this up to this point. We've kind of saying, just see, you'll see, you know, just check it out. Don't take my word for it. Let's just wait and see what happens. But it feels like it's kind of getting to that precipice now where something's going to flip. And, you know, I was thinking a little bit also, I'm going to tie in the example of comfort income as well, because let's face it, some of these folks who have these international currencies and they're going to, you know, go through the process, and they're actually going to, they're going to gain a lot of funds. They're going to become quite wealthy. And not just for humanitarian projects, they'll also have some money for themselves in that process. But between that and also providing comfort income for people in everyday life, all of a sudden, and this just hit me this week because I put myself in that situation. If I'm not having to wake up in the morning and think of, oh God, I got to go back to my job, or I got to go back into the rat race, and I got to make money, and I got to make sales, or I got to do this, or I got to do that because I got to bring in the bread so I can pay the bills, so I can, you know, survive and eat and all the rest of it. It really, you know, it just hit me in a different way this week. It's like my life is direction is going to be completely different. No longer will I be just kind of going down a path of, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. Now it's like, what is important to me? What do I want to do? What can I do? What can I contribute? What the heck is important to me? So I don't know if, I mean, I'm not really asking a question, but I said a lot there, and I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts or comments about anything that I've said regarding even like the everyday Calgarian. All of a sudden, they don't have the bills they used to have, and they don't have the debt they used to have, and they have the income that they now need to serve to cover their means, and now their choices are different. So how will life be different, and how do you see things sort of going from there?
Well, let me put it from a personal perspective once again. Okay, so there's the bed and breakfast I live in, the house. There's two houses right side by side. So there's about, I don't know, 12, 13 tenants, something like that. And a few of them are long-term. They've been there for a fair number of months, you know. I've been there already 2 months myself. And this one fella, he's been there a lot longer, like I think almost 2 years. And he works for the company, like he actually does some work for them, as well as, you know, lives there. He's carpenter and he's handy and stuff like that. So he'll get part of his payment for his rent with his work. He came to me last week and he said, finally, I can retire, he said. And retirement to him was that he's getting his, you know, government comfort. And I'm going to call it basic income in his case, because it still doesn't seem like very much. But he was so happy, like, you know, he turned that corner and he got that extra comfort. Okay. Well, not only is he a carpenter, but he's an artist. Okay. And the backyard in our house, he's got a little shop that he set up. He must have made a deal with the company, you know, that he could do this. And the amount of work he's done in the last week, oh my God, William, I'm going to show you pictures. Like one of these days, he goes down here along the river, because we live right by the river, and he collects different pieces of driftwood and rocks and things like that. And he's building these like kind of lamps and different things out of driftwood. And he gets the wood sanded down to the basic hard, you know, material that's left. And what he's doing, hand sanding it out and stuff, it is incredible work and beautiful. I said to him, man, I'm going to buy some of that stuff, you know? So there's a perfect example right there, you know? And I know so many people like myself, you know, who have been hampered by this globalist agenda, and there's nothing else to do but go to some bloody slave job that we don't want to do. And, you know, a corporate mentality attitude. that want to start a business, that want to do something on their own creatively. All that's going to come now. That's going to come. And will it change the food industry here in Calgary, for instance? Of course it will. We'll be able to start up meat shops again instead of going right to, competitive superstore or whatever, and they'll have a blowout one day and lose money on their product. And it's just a bait and switch kind of games and stuff that they play. Well, we can do this right from pasture to plate. We can figure out, and our overhead's not going to be as much anymore. And if we're getting funded instead of financed, well, there's a big boost right off the bat. So you watch, there's going to be businesses pop up, and there's all these stores that have been closed down for lease signs and stuff. That's all going to go away. This is a beautiful turnaround, brother, honest to God.
I'm just imagining a lot of creativity. I mean, that story you described about, the gentleman who lives under the same roof as you, and the work that he's doing. He's not just doing, everyday work. He's doing artistry. He's doing, really creative stuff. And I think that is going to really awaken in the humans as we transition. Now, right now, like the one thing I thought of when he said to you, I will finally be able to retire. I have feelings about that word. Like to me, that word never existed. Like I could never see myself retiring. I don't like that word. I've always thought of it as, like rolling up and dying, which doesn't mean everyone else thinks of it that way. But I mean, to me, I kind of see it that way. It's sort of you're losing your motivation to do things. And there is a possibility, we talked about this before, there is a possibility that when people get their comfort income, that some of them will just choose to do nothing for a while. Although I suspect that it'll get kind of boring for them. And if they don't, eventually move out of that they probably will not become very healthy either. And things will go downhill for them, and maybe it won't be a pleasant situation. But, at some point, I think that, and I don't know how many people are going to go down which path. It'll be, unique and individual for each person. But I can really see things changing in a huge way. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I will mention it here because you are familiar with this person, and I've been following this person's work, and am very interested in it. And it is kind of resembling something that you said about, more local shops will start opening up. And that is a guy named Michael Tellinger and the One Small Town concept, where we start creating local economy, local focus, local creativity, local community, helping community. And in that sense, that is a completely different way of doing and looking at things than what we've been trained to do up to this point. Are you seeing something similar to that, or is it going to be something a little bit different, or what do you foresee?
Well, there's two things there. I want to go back first to that retirement word, because look what happened. That man's mind said, or his mouth said retirement. His hands said creativity. He went to work, he went to work, and he's just like, he's out there at 7 o'clock in the morning now, sanding away. And it's just amazing how his future just brightened up, and he got his basic income. Just think if he had his comfort income, and had even a little bit more freedom. Okay. He'd even get more creative. So that's one thing I wanted to say. So I don't think we're going to see much of that sitting around thing. And I think that there's so many men and women out there. I'm sorry if I said men earlier, but it's because I was talking about a man, but men and women out there who have been, taken out of the middle class. Okay. They've been set aside, and some of them were wealthy enough that they were able to semi-retire or whatever, and put their money in stock market and try and, worry about that part of it. But, those people are creative, and they're not that old yet. There's a lot of them that are yours and my age. And even if they're 70 years old, that if you presented to them an opportunity to fund a project, you don't think their minds are ready to go to work? You damn rights they are, brother. And if it's at the level of, you know, Michael Tellinger's, now we'll go into that for a bit. It's one small town, you know, the communities in Alberta, a lot of them just disappeared. The little tiny towns just disappeared. You know, all that's left are a few of the old farmers that moved into town into a cheap house and let this kid take over the farm or something like that. That's about all that's left. You know, there's not much business or anything, but you start bringing project funding in and building those communities the way that Michael talks about. He's a beautiful man. I met him in person here in Calgary and I promoted his idea. We were thinking in terms of community at that time when I met him. And our private project side is about agriculture, but are we going to house the contract workers, the people that want to work with us, that aren't going to be employees, that aren't going to be, you know, treated like shit? They're gonna have, you know, an opportunity to live with us and build community with us, of course. Then that kind of stuff is going to start popping up everywhere as well. So, and that shift is coming, William. Let's talk about that a little bit more. But you go first. I saw you had a thought.
I did. First of all, thank you, because just in our conversation back and forth, I realized for myself, even though maybe you didn't quite say it directly, but you know, I got the message, and that is that the word retirement, if a person uses the word retirement, doesn't mean you have to curl up and die. It means, for a lot of people, it means freedom. It means freedom to be creative, to do the things you've always said you wanted to do, but never could do it. You know, so thank you, because that kind of opens my mind and my eyes around that word, and I don't have to have that same, you know, definition to it. There's a couple of things I wanted to approach. One is, I don't know if you want to talk about this too much, so stop me if I'm going on a track you don't want to go, but as you and I know, and you did allude to it just a little bit last week, and I don't want to go into too much depth, but you are in the process of having a book written, correct?
Yeah, you betcha. But you started something I wanted to talk about first again. So this is a good one. We're just bouncing back and forth, brother. It's really good. And now I forgot what it was.
I was talking about freedom.
Right, the freedom part. Okay, so those people, just think of this now for another example. When I spoke to these two ladies that live up on top of this hill, and you want to see some high-priced property, I'll tell you. I don't know what the lots are worth, but the lot alone has got to be $1 million, you know, like there's, and then they built some brand new shacks up here too. Some of these houses are older that have been here forever, looking down at the city, you know, but the ones that are here, and there's a few new ones going up. And so these ladies, I stopped and talked to them. They're having a shot of wine on their patio, and I started the mayoralty thing. And I might have mentioned this last week.
You did. You shared the story with us last week. Yeah,
yes.
It was a good story. But go ahead.
Well, just adding to it a tiny bit, William, is that, you know, that freedom for people like that, you know, like she said to me, well, we don't need that money. I could just give it away. I said, or you could go for a trip, you know, like comfort income is comfort for everyone. And it's starting now. No blame, no shame, no guilt, no, oh, how did you earn your money? You know, like there could be a lot of questions there from people who are, you know, well, what do you mean you live in $1 million house up on top of a hill, or $1 million lot on top of a hill on top of $1 million house? Like, who cares? You know, we're talking about now. And there's no more of this fighting, capitalism, communism bullshit. No more of that. That's done. We're starting a new era, a new world of freedom, like you say, and freedom for all. Freedom for those people who are, you know, maybe she's not too worried about making her mortgage payments, but there's probably a few of them up here that have built these big houses that are. So here's an extra little shot to pay some of that if you need it. You know, like it's available for all. And it's always been there. There's no limit. Like I said earlier in the show, you know, there's credit, currency, and cash are all manifested, okay? And manifested meaning they're just poof, and they're made out of autographs and agreements. And there's some paper to back it, and that's it. And there's no limit to that, no limit whatsoever, and no bullshit story of debt. because who the hell are you in debt to? Give me a break. That whole thing is disappearing fast, brother.
So I'm gonna bring back the book thing in a second here too, because that was the
Oh,
other
yeah.
thing I was gonna mention. But you know, like I'm ringing a lot of bells here for sure. But you know, the thing that I hear you saying is in this last little story about the people on the hill and so forth is really give yourself the opportunity to really live your life, you know, to really experience it, to really enjoy it. I mean, it's not just saying, you know, start going from being on the rat race to being a humanitarian. You got to remember yourself in that journey too. You were talking about God earlier and you know, manifesting and aligning yourself. Well, if you are God, if you are part of that, and you know, I'm sure that you would say you are, you know, you got to be good to yourself too, right?
Yes, you betcha. And I mean, that comfort will be there. Then if you're still in that mode of, I want to travel, I don't just want the $3,300, well, then you're going to have to be creative or participate in one of these projects, and projects that are going to be led and guided by people who aren't in a capitalist mode all the time. Okay, those kind of people are out there waiting to just be funded, and then once they're funded, they'll treat people with respect and honor instead of that capitalist dog eat dog bullshit that we all participated in. And that's the leaders of all that have already gone. That's where, again, I have compassion for the poor buggers, these poor politicians that are just, you know, fallen into that trap with programming their minds in some kind of an indoctrinated process. So have mercy on them, but get the fuck out of the way at the same time. You know, like if you're not going to change your attitude and you're not going to open your mind to what's going on, just leave. And they are in hordes. There's thousands of CEOs that are resigning. Politicians are leaving left, right, and center. Our Bank of Canada governor gone. Our Minister of Finance gone. Who did they put in? A young lady who hasn't got a clue what the hell money is about, let alone finance or anything else. Poor young girl, she doesn't know what to do. She's just following a narrative, you know? But out of the way, darling, I'm sorry, but, you know, do something that you feel creative in. Don't just do something that you're asked to do and you're told what to do, you know? Like that reality is gone. We're bypassing that. It's detach time. That's the words I want to use. Okay, and from this silliness that we haven't even mentioned up until now, and I'm not going to even use the word, detach from it. Walk around, do your business, act in sovereignty, do your thing. Just don't worry about that. Detach from that story. Detach from those signs and that television and everything that's trying to pump it into your head. Detach. And now detach from the old globalist agenda, admiralty, legal jurisdiction, civil court law system that is completely out of whack. Those poor buggers don't know what to do, or getting mad at us and, you know, frustrated because we say, well, what are you trying to say here? What are you trying to do? You're protecting a bank who, you know, created money off of my autograph because I'm the actual creditor. If you think about it, I autographed the paper that allowed them to get something. They didn't have anything. They get mad at you if you say stuff like that. Well, anger is your own fear. So just get out of the way too. Detach.
I think we found a new slogan for you, Randall.
It sounds like it.
I'm roping us back here. Hold on, cowboy. I'm bringing you back now. I'm roping you in. We're talking about just a little bit about your book. And the only reason I'm bringing it up, because I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but the reason I'm bringing it up is something that I was reading in the manuscript. I was feeling like, you know, our interviews, I was feeling like I wasn't doing a very good job in finding out what kind of issues are currently in Calgary, like everyday issues and what's going on and why I haven't asked you about them and, you know, that kind of thing. And I've been kind of looking for them without doing a lot of homework, but when I have been looking, I've been kind of looking for something. And in your book, you mentioned something and I went, aha, there's something I can talk about. So
Good.
you were mentioning how you you don't have a car that you travel in, that's your own, that you own. So you use the Calgary transportation system. And I remember you saying that you enjoy using the C train, but you're not really crazy about the buses. And and if you become mayor, what do you plan to do with those darn buses?
That's good, brother. Yeah, I mean, I don't need a car right now because my business and everything is on the phone. So I walk, and I walk. That just melded into this whole mayoralty campaign because I'm getting that exposure that way, right? But I also rent a car if I need one. I just go and rent one, like $30 a day or $35 to $45 a day. Who the hell could own a car for that if you don't need it every day? And I don't, so I rent a car. And the trains are nice. They're wonderful. I like them. Anyway, I won't talk about that. There's just the good things. The trains are wonderful. They don't bother me anymore.
Well,
I'm just gonna do this.
Okay, I didn't want necessarily to get you into a situation where you're complaining about something, but I do want to say, okay, what can we do to enhance? What can we do to improve the transportation, inside of the city, so that everyone else can also travel in comfort, not just on the C train, but also in other modes of transportation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, something that I had in my 1973 Firebird formula, air shocks. My God, these little buses that they've got, like the big buses are pretty smooth, and I don't mind them. I'll use them once in a while, but those little things, like you talk about a horse and carriage without springs, okay? We're talking about ox cart. Like, my God, I rode in a couple of those things and it's like, really, really? Come on. We got money to spend for this and that, and we can't, transport the people in any more comfort than that. Just drive you nuts. But anyway, all of that stuff, is that way now because they're playing around with so-called budgets, and in that world of thinking in terms of taxes and debt, and when all that goes away, we're not only going to have some springs in these damn buses, we're going to have a train from here to Edmonton that they've been talking about ever since I was in frickin' high school. Oh, one day we're going to have a maglev train, and we're going to have that now because money's not an issue, and it's not about taxes. That's bullshit. That's stuff can get me cranked up if I start thinking about it. It just drives me nuts. What the hell do you need that usury for? That's just garbage conversation. And as if any government on earth has ever, organized a budget to use their taxes properly yet. Tell me one, unless it's maybe a small town. Every other government on earth is in debt, supposedly, right? Or they tell you that. It's just bullshit. They never balance any budgets.
It occurred to me. It occurred to me that whenever there's talk about budgets for a government or a city or a province or a state, I've never ever heard it said that the state or the province or the city is right on target. They're right on the nose. There's always usually it's a deficit, the D word, but and in Ralph Klein's days, it was a surplus. You didn't hear that very often, but when Ralph Klein was around, there was a surplus. That was pretty cool. But you never heard anyone ever talk about the budget being like right on. We're smack dab on. We're perfect. We're doing great. No problem. So that and I guess what you're basically saying is it was all an illusion anyways. So
it is, and I mean, Ralph was playing it, from a common sense position in his time as mayor. Okay, he was playing the game of budget and deficit and all of that language, right? Debt and everything else. But he was actually trying and accomplishing things with it, But when you've got, these federal and provincial governments just bullshitting their way through this story, and they're the ones like down here. Where the hell are we here? Can't really see it, but just beyond the Stadel Dome, we're slamming up a brand new trade center, okay? welcoming the world, which is, you know, the human construct, right? Welcoming the world and ready to handle the whole world. That's what the sign says, right? It's going to be that big.
Wow.
But there's government of Canada money, there's government of Alberta money, and municipal money. So see, they didn't have to depend on taxes from Calgarians for this alone. We got it from the government. Really? Where's the federal government get their money? Through another $1 trillion in deficit onto our you know, current debt that they say that we have. Another 390 billion in the last year due to this little, you know, scam that's going on or whatever, you know, like it's just ridiculous. And yet, pump some into there too, you know, don't worry about that. Or let's send some to some other nation. Oh my God. It just, you know, that kind of gong show. I used to watch the television. I'm not talking about current events here. This was years ago. I'm still talking about listening to that crap on television. And I can imagine it being even worse now. I don't see it at all anymore. I detach from it.
Ooh, well, we could go down that. I can see it starting to get you riled a little bit in a good way, but I think we'll kind of wrap it up here a little bit. But
Please.
we
Sun's going down.
We had something new. Yeah, we don't want to leave you in the dark. We had a new twist to the show this week that we haven't mentioned, so I thought it might be worth mentioning here at the end before we move on, and that is we decided to throw in a new song into the theme at the beginning and the end. Was there a motivation for choosing that song? Because it was you that presented it to me as the idea to do the switch over, at least for the short term.
Yeah, it's a good song. And you know, I'll tell you the motivation. I was walking down the street, and don't get me wrong, I have no doubts in what I'm talking about. I have nothing but faith in what I'm talking about. And that trust is within me. Again, you know, that's where God, if you want to call it, lies, is within us. The kingdom of heaven is within us. That whole story, right? The Christ, the light, is within you. But it can get to me at times, you know, this time issue, right? Because we've been at this for a long frickin' time, I'm telling you. And I've been out of the world of having much of anything for a few years, right? So I'm walking down the street and I saw this sign. It said forklift operators wanted.
Ooh, temptation.
So I looked at that sign and I looked up in the sky, and then I looked back down. I thought, well, there's nobody up there. So you're going to have to think about this one, Kaiser. You're going to have to put this together. So I started talking to myself a little bit. And I said, you know, have you gone through all of this process? Have you met with, like, I've got 4 current situations. Okay. I've mentioned one to you, and we won't talk about those this week. Maybe we'll go into more details next week, because there's going to be a lot of changes this week, and maybe we can mention some more about them. But I've only really talked about one with you, and one with very many people. But I'm involved with 4. And all 4 of those are just saying the same thing. And I say to myself, did I get this far to be in front of 4 groups this big? Green Dragon family, yellow, I'll just name some names, okay, for the fun of it. Yellow Dragon family, oil and gas that is so big that Bill Gates can just wipe his ass, you know, as far as thinking he's wealthy. And then the other one is just trading of instruments that's made this human being into extreme wealth in the private platform trades, you know, where they have to keep it in unless it comes out to humanitarian or globalist projects in the last 20 years, right? 20, 30, 40, who knows how long. But I walked down there and I thought, okay, I got to pick this up a little bit. And I turned on that song, and I've heard that song for a year, and it's spread around the world. And you got to look up the English version of it and just read the lyrics, because I don't want to get into trying to explaining it, or, you know, to people, but basically talking about how Jerusalem, which is this, the kingdom of heaven right here, is where you belong, right? And Jerusalema being the name of the song. And then, you know, guard me, guide me, walk with me. And that's what I want to tell people. Walk with me. Don't fucking follow me. Excuse my language, but don't follow me. Don't think this mayor is going to have all the answers. You're going to bring the answers to me as far as what you want. All I'm bringing to you mainly is the message of monetary. Okay. That's what I'm bringing to the city of Calgary. I'm going to show you guys, and I'm going to work with you to say, what are we talking about? Taxes. What are we talking about? Inflation, all that stuff that's been indoctrinated into our minds. Okay. Money, credit, cash, currency is all manifested, and we're going to continue to manifest it, and we're going to manifest it in a conscious manner to look after the comfort of every human being.
Wow.
So
I had an alchemical moment, if I can call it that.
okay.
And what I saw there was that you were looking at that, forklift job sign, feeling perhaps a little temptation, and then you mentioned that you had 4 projects, and then you looked up, and I thought, 4 lift, forklift, 4 lift. I thought that was very alchemical, and you probably didn't even notice that one. So there's a free gift for you. How about that?
Oh, thank you, William. That's beautiful. Yeah, that was funny. And I mean, I've driven every kind of tractor, so throw me on a forklift for half an hour and I'll figure it out. That was in my mind. Like, well, I could do that. I could do a million different things, but have I come this far and gotten in this deep into the banking system? And believe me or not, I'm in this deep. Okay, everybody that's out there, you can throw barbs at me all you want, but throw a question at me personally, privately. Come and face me right down Bankers Hall if you want, and let's see if we can talk about banking. We'll go upstairs if you like too, whatever you like.
That reminds me, I gotta do my homework. I gotta check and see some of the comments in the YouTube just to see if anyone's been asking any questions. I haven't checked for the last few weeks. So I will do that. And if there are any questions, because we would happily invite questions, at least for now, until we get overwhelmed, if we get to that point. But we'll gladly take questions at this point so that we can talk about it in future shows. And I think what I'll also do, if I wrote a note for me, is I'm going to see if I can find the English lyrics for that song that we've got for our opening and closing for this week's show, and probably for the next few weeks. I'll put it in the comments as well so that people can read that. I think I'm pretty much tapped. Is there any final words before we ask for the final prayer, Randall?
Oh, look at that. We've got a little spark through downtown. Can you see that? Sun shining through there?
I can, yeah. Well, it's yellow. I don't see like any kind of a reflection or anything, but you can definitely see the sun beaming off one of the buildings.
Yeah, no, that's good. And yeah, just on that song quickly, like try and walk to that song because the beat is this fast. And that's what I did. As soon as I saw that sign, I turned that song on my phone and I started walking. And you want to change your mind fast, you do some physical walking and thinking about something else, and boom, the creativity just started. I posted a thing on Facebook. If anybody is a Facebook fan of mine that's out there, take a look at that. I posted a little, just a write-up right after I started walking to that song. So you don't get me wrong. This is about energy, folks. This is about your energy and your frequency and keeping it up. Okay.
Awesome. And on that note, Randall, would you be kind enough to give us a final closing prayer, if you will?
I would love to, but you know what? I just want to. Can you see that? I'm peeping, I know, but these kids came over here and it is spectacular. 2 young people, and I don't know if he's proposing to her or what he's doing, but he put up basically a living room on the grass, candles and a little table and everything. It's romantic, I'm telling you. It's really cool. So I just wanted to mention that. So, I gotta get rid of that. Sorry. With peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything every day on William and my minds. Abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria for all. Hang in there, folks. Big week coming up, I'll tell you. and enjoy the ride.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, William.
Lots
Love
of
you,
love.
brother.
Kila no lo sé.